Hey guys, what's happening? capnbozzy here, and this is Mass Effect 3 Multiplayer N7 Academy Part 3. And in this episode, we're going to go way more in depth into the weapons that you can use in multiplayer. And of course, if you watched Part 1 of the N7 Academy series, you would have seen that before I just did a brief overview of the 5 different classes here of weapons, as well as what weapon mods you can use. But in this video, I want to go through each of the different weapons and just give you some insight into which ones are the best to use. So, of course, I'm sure you're aware that there are 4 different, classes. So I don't mean classes as in sniper rifle, assault rifle, etc. But classes as in the rarity of the weapons. So this is how you can tell the difference between common, uncommon, rare, and ultra rare weapons. So looking at the sniper rifles here, if you look at my mouse cursor, you can see that there is a black rim around this weapon, around the Black Widow here. And if I go to the next one, the Raptor, you'll see that that's a silver glowing weapon here. So if it's black, then that means that it's an ultra rare weapon, whereas silver is uncommon, and you can see more blacks, and blue is common, and then the last one is gold. So like this Widow here is gold, and that is a rare weapon. So once again, blue is common, silver is uncommon, gold is rare, and black is ultra rare. Okay, so as far as the percentage of how easy it would be to unlock these weapons in the store, I'm sure you can find more information about that online, going to like the Mass Effect Wikia. I don't have that information, off the top of my head, but I do know, that obviously as you progress further along in the game and you're, have more XP and higher levels with your characters, you'll be able to unlock these weapons. Everything is random number generated, as I've said before, so unfortunately, there is no guaranteed way to unlock everything. You just have to grind it out. But just to move along here, to give you, just some more information about these weapons. As far as sniper rifles go, of course, when you're just starting out, you're going to have weapons like the Raptor and the Viper, the Mantis, Incisor. Of course, I'm just going through the common and uncommons here. Gonna be honest, basically all of those weapons suck, just to put it very bluntly, and of course you're gonna be stuck with them in the beginning. So really, I would say in the beginning, probably the best sniper rifle to use is actually the Mantis. It's a nice, one-shot high damage sniper. Of course, use whatever you're comfortable with in the beginning, because it doesn't really matter, honestly. In bronze and silver, you're not really going to be doing tons of damage anyway, and you should really, when you're in bronze and silver, just be learning the game. Just learn how to survive and how to be a team player. And once you move up to gold and platinum, the loadouts that you're using are going to make a much bigger difference. So once you're actually, have some of these rare and ultra rare weapons unlocked, really the only sniper rifles that I suggest using are the Black Widow, the Widow, and the Javelin. I know some other people out there like to use the collector sniper rifle, and maybe the Kaishak for fun, or the Crusader, or however you pronounce that. but really, when it comes down to it, I mean, it's pretty clear. You know, damage-wise, the Widow, you know, for a one-shot sniper, the Javelin is, of course, the strongest sniper, and then the Black Widow, which is, of course, a three-shot sniper. So, depending on if you would rather have 3 shots in your clip or 1 clip, of course, that will determine whether you're going to use a Black Widow versus the Widow versus the Javelin. When it comes down to it for the Widow versus the Javelin, personally, I prefer the Javelin because the Javelin, when you're zoomed in with it, allows you to see through walls, to see enemies through walls, which is and through smoke, and or maybe it's just through smoke, but whatever it is, that's very, very handy, and that alone is enough to make it a better weapon. Of course, you know, it even having better stats, being doing more damage than the Widow. I definitely suggest the Javelin over the Widow. I would say that one thing about the Javelin is you have to get used to the timing of its reload. It's a little bit awkward in comparison to something like the Widow. So, you know, it's just something that you have to get used to. You have to get into the rhythm of it. But once you get the reload down, it is such a beastly weapon. I mean, it's just like using it with a really sniper geared kit, such as the Solarian Infiltrator, which I've mentioned before, is not only a ton of fun, but you can just do so much damage, you know, when you mod it up. So I'll remove one of these, and just so that you can see really quick. And of course, I'm not using the Solarian Infiltrator right now, but just so that you can see what type of mods you can use, you know, with the Javelin. Of course, and of course, I also have it all leveled up. This is at level X. You know, when it's a lower class, of course, you're going to have to determine, out of all of the sniper rifles that you have unlocked, you know, what levels they're at and what mods you have. And you know, it's just when you're creating your loadout, there's a bunch of different variables to keep in mind. So, you know, of course, it's possible for me to say, you know, without seeing, you know, the rest of your loadout, just to give me, you know, anything more than general advice. So as far as the clip size goes, as far as I remember, it has the Javelin has a pretty good clip. I think it's around when it's completely leveled up, it has around 15 shots, something like that, which is plenty even on platinum. And depending on what you're using, you don't really need to use the high velocity barrel, nor do you need to use the thermal scope. You can really just go with the extended barrel, and either the thermal clip if you want more ammo, or you could even use the ultralight materials with it if you know, you really want to help with that cooldown speed. So once again, of course, that depends on you know, what kit you're using. You could even go for the high velocity barrel if you really want to. You know, if you really just are throwing your cooldown out the window and don't care. But yeah, I definitely suggest the Javelin and the Black Widow. Really, once again, the difference is just whether or not you want to use a 3-shot sniper or a 1-shot sniper. Okay, so that gives you some more information, just some basic pointers about sniper rifles. Moving on to assault rifles here. Of course, the Avenger, classic assault rifle, is common. That's actually not too bad to use in the beginning, since it has a large clip with capacity here, as well as fast fire rate. Of course, it has low damage and not the greatest accuracy, but it's also low weight, so you know, the Avenger is actually not too bad when you're first starting out. I personally haven't used the Keveth pulse rifle very much. And you know, like the Feisten, for example, is another one that's kind of just a piece of shit, and I don't really suggest using. Like I said, you know, when you're first starting out, it doesn't really matter. The Matic, aka the poor man's Harrier, is actually an excellent gun to use before you unlock the Harrier, or the what's it called? The Lancer. There you go. The Lancer is another really excellent gun. Of course, it's the upgraded version of the Avenger. So you can see, you know, it has full capacity clip there with its, you know, with its stats. So as far as, you know, running out of ammo, of course, the Lancer is a thermal clip that you don't have to replace. It's a, what's the term for it? You know, it's auto reloading gun. So, the Lancer is an excellent choice with the Turian Soldier, for example. You know, using him with his powers, you can use the Lancer to increase your fire rate. So you're just, you know, really just laying into enemies. And of course, since the thermoclip doesn't have to be replaced, you never run out of ammo. It only overheats. You know, as long as you're managing, you know, the overheat, you can really just keep going forever. You know, with something like the Turian Soldier. So the Lancer's an excellent gun to use, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, the Harrier is really, as far as assault rifles go, you can never go wrong with using the Harrier. Once you unlock it, it just has a superior damage and accuracy and really just everything else. It's just by far really the best assault rifle in the game, and you just can't go wrong with it. But like I said, if you don't have the Harrier unlocked, then the Matic is a good choice in its place. And also the particle rifle here is also another one that, of course, doesn't need to use thermal clips. It's just you know, working on whether or not it's going to overheat or not. So you know, the particle rifle is another one that it can just, you know, you put incendiary ammo, you know, 3 or 4 on there, and you can just basically you know, just take a cover and really just you know, let it ramp up, and it will just shred through armor like nothing. And it's just, for as far as killing bosses go, when you have a fully leveled up particle rifle and incendiary ammo, there's not that many things in the game that can really do that much damage so quickly. It's really damn good. So let me see if there's anything else here that I really recommend. I've used the Typhoon quite a bit, and I would say that it's not really a practical gun to use. It's a lot of fun for sure. That's another one that I've used with the N7 Soldier. Can't remember. Destroyer, that's his name. N7 Destroyer Soldier. I've used that with him. Since he doesn't have powers that you need to cool down with, you know, it's not a problem to turn him into a weapons platform. And the Typhoon, of course, is you know, kind of like having you know, like a saw, like an M60. It's a fun gun to use. It's just its accuracy really makes it difficult to use, and it's the kind of thing that, you know, close up it can do a lot of damage, but it takes so long to get it started and going that you know, compared to something like the Harrier, it just kind of sucks. You know, it's not as good as it could be, and that's really just because of its really shitty accuracy and how long it takes to really start it up and to get it at its full it's kind of a nerfed weapon. Really could be a lot better. Really haven't used the Spitfire. That's kind of just like another, you know, novelty weapon that isn't really practical. The anti-synthetic rifle is also another decent choice. Personally, I haven't used it too much myself, just really because the other weapons, you know, the particle rifle and the Harrier, are really just so superior. So, you know, that's another decent choice. Like, of course, since that's a rare rather than an ultra rare, if you have that unlocked, you know, and you don't have something like the Lancer yet, or the Harrier or the particle rifle, then that's another good choice. The Striker assault rifle is also pretty decent. Yeah, I mean that really falls into the same place as like the Aegis here. It's just something that you can you know, you can throw on if you don't have the other ones unlocked, and does decent damage. The Collector rifle, another one I haven't really used too much. It's kind of I don't know. It's I'm not going to say it's bad or anything. It's just not something that I would ever use over the other choices. Of course, you can experiment with it. Falcon, I don't really recommend, nor the Revenant. The Saber is actually another really good gun to use if you want something that's kind of like a sniper, but of course, you know, has much more ammo capacity. You know, obviously since it's an assault rifle, it's great for getting headshots with. You can put a nice scope on it, and yeah, the Saber is a lot of fun as well. One problem with the Saber, of course, is that it just doesn't do enough damage like a sniper rifle, in my opinion, to make it worth it to use over something like a Harrier. And you know, when you get into the higher difficulties like Gold and Platinum, especially Platinum, when DPS or damage per second is such an important factor in the game, to me, I just found that using the Saber, and you know, I'm sure other people out there who use the Saber love it and you know, really crush it with it, but for me, I just never used it enough for it to be worth it, and for it to be practical. But that's definitely another good assault rifle to use. Valkyrie, I don't really recommend. Vindicator, neither. Yeah, really, the rest of these aren't really worth using unless you just have to in the beginning. So yeah, just to sum that up, I would say Harrier's number one, and then the particle rifle is also really good, as well as the Saber and Lancer. And if you don't have those unlocked, go with the Aegis anti-synthetic and the let me see, the Striker, and of course the Matic. I would say that the Matic is my personal. The Matic and the Avenger are my personal favorites to use as far as the beginner weapons go. Those are probably the best choices before you get, you know, the really good assault rifles. All right, so I think that's gonna cover all of that. So let's move on here to SMGs. Okay, so of course, once again, you know, gold. This is your rares, and then you know, your Shuriken, of course, is a common. By and far, in my opinion, the N7 Hurricane, of course, that's a ultra rare, is absolutely the best SMG in the game. If you compare its stats to any of the other SMGs, you'll see that it has, you know, superior damage. It just has superior stats to everything else, plain and simple. I think that there really isn't any other SMG that really comes close to it at all. The only reason to use anything else is for the Collector SMG and the Geth Plasma SMG is that they don't use thermal clips, and you know, they just work on an overheat you know, basis. So if you're really good at managing that, then you know, they may be something that's worth looking into. However, Once again, you can see here just the difference in damage between these weapons. So yeah, I mean, I've also had a lot of fun using the Blood Pact Punisher, which is also, of course, an ultra rare, so that will take you a while to unlock. But that's really the only other SMG that I would recommend using, other than the Hurricane. I really wouldn't even recommend anything else other than the Hurricane. You just gotta make sure with the Hurricane that you put on the recoil system here, stabilizer, because the recoil is definitely very high with the Hurricane. If you don't have it on, if you don't have the mod, then you're gonna need to put on some other type of equipment, some kind of weapon stability to help buff that, because the Hurricane it kicks like a bitch, and you really need to be able to get good accurate headshots with it and everything. You really need to have that stability mod there. It makes a huge difference. So that's really the only reason to not use the Hurricane if you have it, is if for some reason you just can't put any stability mod on it, or that's just not important enough to you, because it really makes all the difference right there. It's really kind of a shame that there really aren't better SMGs other than the Hurricane, but that's really what it is. At least it makes it easy. It's a no-brainer. Okay, so moving on to shotguns here. When you're first starting out, the Katana is actually not too bad of a shotgun. Obviously, in comparison to the other ones, it's a piece of shit. But when you're first starting out, I actually like the Katana. It's not too bad. Keveth Plasma Shotgun is pretty decent. However, having to charge it up, and I mean, of course, you don't have to charge it up. You can get not the fully powered shots with it, and it doesn't have too bad of a fire rate, but you do get, with Geth characters, you do get the 5+ percentage with the damage. With some of the different Geth characters, you can just look at their their stats to see if they get that bonus. And that may be worth it to you if you like using it. I personally don't really like using the Geth Plasma Shotgun that much. I really do like the Wraith, though. The Wraith, as well as the Claymore, and of course the Rieger. And it's funny that the Rieger is actually a rare rather than an ultra rare, because it is absolutely by far the best weapon in the game as far as getting the most kills. High DPS. You cannot go wrong with a upgraded Rieger. You put incendiary ammo on a Rieger, and my god, you're just gonna go through enemies like butter. The Rieger is absolutely recommended, and it also has some kind of incendiary bug that you can read about. I'm not gonna attempt to give you all the details on that. I can never remember all that stuff, but I do know that with the Rieger, you can use the high velocity barrel with it, and that damage, that 50% weapon weight there, is actually not going to be calculated when you're in the game. Of course, it will show your increased weapon weight, but it's actually not going to make a difference when you're actually playing. So your cooldown is actually not really affected by that. And that's a glitch apparently with weapons that were brought that are DLC weapons. Once again, for more information about that, I suggest looking online. Just do a search for Rieger incendiary bug, and you'll see just how it stacks, and it's an absurdly overpowered weapon. But it's a lot of fun, and it's definitely extremely useful when you're playing Platinum. So absolutely the Rieger is highly recommended. And the other ones here, Piranha's decent. The Venom Shotgun's kind of more like a novelty weapon. Claymore is my second choice. So really, well, I personally love the Claymore. It's just a lot of fun to use. It's also, kind of like the Javelin. I know I've recommended the Claymore to other people before, and they've had trouble with it because it being a one-shot shotgun, it takes a lot of practice to get used to it. And when you're playing the higher difficulties, if you miss, and you really don't know what you're doing, then it can be a major problem. So it's one of those guns that once you get really good with it, you absolutely fall in love with it. But until that point, you may want to use something else just to be able to get by. So the Crusader, if I remember correctly, is a 2-shot shotgun, and that's not too bad. Disciple is actually pretty good too, since it's so lightweight. That's what's really the positive about it. So that's another one that, even though that's a rare here, I remember I unlocked that pretty quickly, I think. So that's pretty decent. I would say that of all the weapons here, I think that the shotguns are probably have the most overall that are actually good weapons to use of all of the weapons. Because really, you really can't go wrong, to be honest, with shotguns, because they just do so much damage. It really just comes down to, some very small nitpicky type of things, like whether or not you want to use a single shot shotgun or double or triple, or that's really what it is. Or if you want to use something like the spike thrower that you can charge up. That's the thing with these, is there's so many choices here, you really can't go wrong. Obviously, the ones that are the commons and uncommons, are not as good, of course. The katana and the the scimitar are not as good, but even like the eviscerator, which is just an uncommon, is pretty decent. So once again, you really can't go wrong with shotguns. Just do what you like, experiment with them, and that's also why I recommend doing the challenges, because when you do the challenges, it gives you motivation to use all the different weapons, so you can really get a feel of what you like. And so once again, just to close this out with the shotguns, my main recommendations are the Claymore and the Rieger and the Wraith. Those are by and far the best shotguns in the game, at least in my experience. And the Grawl is also pretty fun to use too, but those other ones are really what I recommend. Okay, so moving on to the pistols here for the last one. Okay. So interestingly enough, just like the shotguns, I would say that the pistols are probably the second best class of weapons that has the most pistols that are actually good weapons. So if SMGs is by far the worst, with the Hurricane basically being the only good one, and then sniper rifles basically having 3. And assault rifles basically having about 3. The shotguns have way more, and as well as the pistols. So when you're first starting out, of course, the Phalanx is uncommon, and which is pretty decent if you just are going through the stats. Once again, with pretty much all of these pistols, you really can't go wrong. Of course, even the starter pistol, the Predator, isn't too bad. Has good accuracy, good capacity, not too bad at damage, fire rate, but very quickly you'll definitely unlock a lot more pistols, and while ones like the Executioner pistol and the Suppressor are not really practical because they're just way too heavy, and of course the Executioner pistol is a single shot, and it's like a hand cannon, and the Suppressor is fun to use, but it's also just not practical. It does have a high fire rate, accuracy, and everything, but it's just too heavy for a pistol, frankly. In my opinion, anyone who's played with me will definitely know of my love for the Acolyte, because really, other than if you're going to use something like the Scorpion or the Arc pistol as basically like your main weapon in a build, because of course like something like the Arc pistol has amazing damage and accuracy. It's just like the Arc pistol is amazing gun. Like you really could use it in place of like an assault rifle if you wanted to, because it just has so much versatility. So the Acolyte, really as a sidearm, you just can't go wrong, because when it comes down to stripping shields, there's just nothing better than the Acolyte. Obviously, if you're using something like a shotgun and you're using like a Rieger or a Claymore, obviously stripping shields really isn't what you're worrying about, because you're just going to be destroying everything basically in one shot or one clip anyway, so it's not a problem. But if you have a kit such as the human adept here, you're not going to be using something like a shotgun or an assault rifle or sniper rifle. Most likely you're probably going to be using an SMG and a pistol. So it's absolutely essential so that you can get those power combos done, to be able to strip shields very quickly and efficiently. And that's where the Acolyte comes in. Acolyte is also one of those guns that has kind of a niche, a niche. How do you put it? A lot of people either love the Acolyte or they don't use it at all. That's from what I've seen, and it's because of the way that it works. You have to charge it up, and it works on a kind of like projectile basis. It's not just like a straight shot like most gunshots. It's you have to arc it, and but it's just amazing because you can shoot it around corners, you can bounce it around, you can basically do trick shots with it. It has amazing versatility, amazing range, and the amount of damage it does is just unparalleled. I mean, the accuracy and damage, and it's extremely lightweight. I mean, you just really cannot go wrong with the Acolyte. Like I said, as far as stripping shields and working as a sidearm for an SMG or an assault rifle, the Acolyte has my absolute highest recommendation. However, of course, it's a rare weapon, so it may take you a while to unlock it. So until that point, of course, I can't really say the Scorpion because that's a rare. I mean, a ultra rare. So I guess up until that point, just looking here at, really it looks like the only two common and uncommon are the Phalanx and the Predator. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So those are really going to be your only choices in the beginning, unless you get lucky and unlock one of the rare ultra rares. So as I mentioned earlier, I mean the Phalanx and the Predator really aren't too bad. Use those with different mods, and get some extra damage on them. And they're pretty decent sidearms in the beginning. But once you've gotten a couple more, if you have like the Talon, the Talon's also kind of like a hand cannon, kind of like a little like pistol shotgun type gun. Talon's definitely decent. I see a lot of people use the Talon. I don't really use it too much in multiplayer, just because like I said, when it comes down to it, the arc pistol and the Acolyte are my absolute favorite pistols. But yeah, I mean the talent's definitely great. Even if you're playing something like an adept and you want something with a little bit more stopping power, instead of equipping a shotgun, you can use something like a Talon, and that will work in its place. So then of course you got the arc pistol here, which is just all around, I mean, just a phenomenal pistol that you can't go wrong with. Looking at these stats, you can see why, and of course if you used it in the single player, then you know how awesome it is. Scorpion, in my opinion, because it takes so long for the rounds to explode, and it also has a low capacity thermal clip. The Scorpion on higher levels is not really, in my opinion, practical. I know that there's a lot of people who like to use the Scorpion against phantoms, which is not a bad idea. It's just that if you were going to use the Scorpion versus the Acolyte, I just don't really see how that can really compete. To me, it's more just like that you like using the Scorpion for fun. It's not really that it's superior to the Acolyte. There are some niche type builds that you can use with the Scorpion and make it work. Of course, you can really make anything work if you're good at the game, but Scorpion's just one of those guns that is kind of a novelty weapon. Not, in my opinion, not very practical. Let's see, the Paladin. That's another one. So kind of like the Phalanx. And Phalanx, Paladin, and Carnifex are all very similar weapons. They don't have any. They're all just straight shot guns. Not like a trajectory like the Acolyte or anything. They just are basically kind of like the same weapon, just with slightly different, damage levels and accuracy. They're all three of them are very similar. So I would say just, once you have them all unlocked, they just have, very slight differences. So once again, just experiment with them and, see which one you like best. The Eagle is basically an SMG actually, because its fire rate, it's an automatic pistol. Of course, it's it doesn't have. I don't think it has as much capacity, or it's a little bit different than an SMG, but it is basically a semi-auto pistol. So the Eagle isn't bad. From what I remember, that's not one I use too much either. It does have some pretty bad recoil, so you're probably going to need to use a mod for that. And but it does have some really low weight, and not too bad at damage. So that's definitely not a bad choice either once you have it upgraded. Okay, so I think that really is everything here. Okay, so just to sum up pistols once again, absolutely the Acolyte. As far as if you need something to strip shields, a really good sidearm, the Acolyte is definitely the way to go with that. Of course, it also has pretty good capacity, so you really don't need to use an extra thermal clip with it. Maybe unless it's just going to be the only weapon you carry, which I don't really recommend. Yeah, I really would say using that with an assault rifle or a pistol is the way to go. So strip the enemy's shields with the Acolyte, and then knock them down with either your powers or your SMG or assault rifle. And then if you want a pistol that has really excellent range, great capacity, as well as accuracy and damage, the arc pistol is basically like kind of using like a saber, or something, in pistol form. It's just, you can just use it to get headshots. Also, if you want to just has a good fire rate, so if you don't want to charge it up, you can also just use it to just really lay down some heavy weapon fire and get good DPS with it. So the arc pistol is also really good choice in filling those spots when you want something that's a little less heavy than something like a saber or another type of assault rifle, to use in conjunction with maybe a shotgun or a SMG. So if you wanted to use something like a hurricane as just on close range, and then use the arc pistol for long range to get some headshots, that's definitely a good way to go. I've done that with some kits, and it's a lot of fun. So lastly, of course, if you want something that's like a hand cannon, so something that's lighter, more compact than a shotgun, then the Talon is an excellent weapon for that. And if you also want to have some fun with that, then the Executioner pistol. Executioner pistol is kind of buggy in my opinion, so I don't really recommend it. It's not really that it's it being a one shot that's the problem. It's just that for whatever reason, it doesn't work that well. And despite it having really great stats, when I've used it before, I've just had problems with it. And it is fun. It's kind of like a novelty weapon, so you can get your kicks in with it and see when you're doing the challenges if it's something that you like. Okay, so that's everything here. I guess only other thing really to go over in depth is these mods, and I'll do that and then we'll wrap this up. So of course, depending on what pistol you're using, really this is just for, I guess I don't really need to go through all this with the weapons, but just to go over the the basic overview of the different types of weapon mods. So you got like a melee stunner here, and of course there's different variations for different guns that different mods that help give you more melee strength. The melee damage is not, personally, it's not something I ever really use. I don't really ever use melee stuff, melee mods, just because really the high caliber barrel is much more important, because obviously you're going to be shooting your gun much more than you are going to be meleeing with it, as well as the ultralight materials. And once again, this goes for all the weapons, not just pistols here. I'm just using this as an example. So really, I would say for the most part, what you want to be using from mod-wise is ultralight materials, depending on your build. If you need the extra, weight to go down, as well as the high caliber barrel and the magazine. So for assault rifles, one of the problems with the Harrier, for example, is that it has pretty small thermoclip size. So that's something that you really need to compensate for by either using an equipment mod for that, like a barrage upgrade, or using something like a magazine upgrade on the Harrier. That may be also something you want to use on the Hurricane, depending on what kit you're using it with. Something like the Turian Soldier. If you really want to be just doing tons and tons of damage, just unloading, then you may want like the barrage upgrade as well as the magazine upgrade. And I guess the last one here is the piercing mod. So depending on the weapon, of course, if you want to be able to shoot through thick objects and be able to do some more damage, the piercing mod is not a bad way to go. And of course, there's a high caliber barrel mod for other. Okay, well, that's just a heavy barrel for pistols. So I was saying just like the high caliber barrel for like assault rifles and stuff would be in its place, and that's those are also good as well. So as far as the pistol power magnifier, that was probably the other one I missed. So yeah, for pistols using the power magnifier, and as well as for SMGs, that's also a good idea. Definitely with very power based kits, such as like the human adept and other adepts that are like very power based, Saris and stuff. Using the power magnifiers is definitely a good idea. Also, for kits like engineers who you just really want to be firing off powers all the time, just to be priming and detonating. Power magnifier is a good way to go. Okay. All right. So I think that covers everything pretty in depth here. I don't really have anything else to go over. If I see anything that I missed, I'll let you know in the comments of the video. And in the next one, I think we're going to move forward, and I'll show you some more gameplay stuff with power combos. I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit between going through the menu stuff with building kits as well as gameplay. Just doing that just to keep it interesting, I guess. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. capnbozzy out.